He's like a butterfly flapping his wings deep down into the forest, man. It's gonna cause a tree fall like 5,000 miles away, man. There ain't nobody seeing nobody. Man, see, like, you don't even know, man. It's like you're born into this world, man. And you got like that, man, the dust and wind, man. Or like the dang old candle, man. It don't matter, man. Please all the time.
All right, Remus, welcome to the Jay Burden Show for the first time ever.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is the first time that I've ever been here. Yeah.
A little bit of context, guys. It's been a while since I've gone through this, and due to some file share issues, I've had Remus on about 2 weeks ago to record the next series in Berserk. We were kind of offset, so we decided to do what I had prepared for, went through it, and then this is earlier in the narrative, so you will be listening to it first, but chronologically, the next segment is going to be out afterwards. Recorded first, released second. So a lot of the who Remus is, we're going over that, will be in the second part. So don't feel like this is super jumbled, just some context there. But yeah, man, I'm glad to have you back on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I love having this discussion. And also, you're a great host.
Thanks.
I think it's funny. I did. I kind of like referenced this episode in the past. You know what I mean? Like when we. You know what I mean? As much as I could, I was like trying to like bake in some sort of like time shenanigans. To just be like, yeah, I'll discuss the things that I said last time. This time from the past, right? Yeah. No, I think especially this part of this story. Is very close, right, to my heart, right? So I love talking about it. I love the discussion, and I think it's pertinent, these days. People like this and these kinds of pains are lessons for a reason, So that's why I always say read fucking Berserk.
Yeah, 100%. So just a couple things, obviously. Somewhat similarly to the other episodes, I will be showing select panels. This book is fairly graphic, right? So there's certain things I can't show. Every time I put these up, I include a link to where you can read them all for free. Highly recommend it. And the audience has been chimping for this one. So let's get straight into it. So obviously we're through Black Swordsman, which was sort of a one shot. Everything from now on takes place in chronological order in the narrative. And right off the bat, we are introduced to the birth of Guts, right? So what we see is, and this is something I probably can't show, it's a little bit graphic, is a mercenary company, right? All on horseback riding past this tree, just covered in corpses, right? Hanging from the tree. And one of the camp followers runs up, a woman, and sees that there's been a baby born from one of these bodies, right? A pregnant woman hung, baby still alive. We get a little bit of context there that effectively this woman is sort of, one of the camp followers. She has a relationship with, a character we'll track for the next couple episodes. And yep, no shock, right? This is Guts. Now, what's interesting, is she is technically saved, right, as part of this mercenary band. But again, more foreshadowing, one of the kind of nameless goons in the background says, picking up a kid at a place like this, it's a bad omen, right? He's cursed, something that will, continue to be relevant. So it moves forward a little bit. We see kind of Guts as a young man witnessing the horrors of war. And this woman, who is sort of taking care of him, dies horribly of the plague. Again, rendered in somewhat excruciating detail, right? So quickly, Guts moves into a role, as sort of a guy in this mercenary company.
He's like a squire,
Yeah, exactly, a squire. And we see him, somewhat incidentally, kill his first man at, or witness his first, I guess, killing at, 6 or 7. Right, it's not explicitly said.
He's a child. I cannot be stressed enough. All of the things that happen here are happening to a child. This is a little boy, right? yeah, it's a really, really brutal introduction to the world that he lives in, right? This is not the kind of thing that a little kid is obviously want to see, but this is his life. And I think the very fact that this kid comes out, like the name Guts, all of it, right? It's all so emblematic, right? This kid is born from death. He has been surrounded by it his whole life. Basically, from birth to where he is in the story now, it's endless suffering, endless amounts of the just the dark parts of reality, right? There is no, he doesn't get a filter. He doesn't get, you know what I mean? So many children, right? At least, especially in our era, right? Our time, it sort of prides itself on, separating children, like almost like keeping them in a walled garden, right? And this story does not give this child this luxury, right? He does not have that. He doesn't have any, like, you know, we're skimming a bit, right? And that's good. But the nature of the relationship that he has to the people who saved him is even that. It's like, there's almost no closeness. There's no warmth. The only warmth he ever really experienced as a child was with this woman who chose to pick him up in the first place. But she dies early, and she dies traumatically, and he watches it. You know what I mean? He sits there with her, which I think is a beautiful aspect of him. He is a deeply empathetic person already as a child, right? He sits with this woman as she's dying, holds her, right? Everyone's telling him, don't touch her, you could get sick. And he just doesn't, it doesn't even register for him, right? I love that aspect of Guts as a character. It really shows you early what kind of person he really is, right? He care, like if he feels a debt to you, he will be there, right? He will be there. You know, to foreshadow early, and there he is, the eponymous Gambino, our guy, the dad, this kid's father figure. Like, look at this, right? Corpse is thrown upon him. He freaks out a little bit, and the first reaction that Gambino has is hitting him in the face with the butt of his spear, and going, "Are you trying to get me killed?" Right? Like, this guy has no mercy, right? Complete, like, completely callous psycho person, right? No mercy for a child. He doesn't give a fuck. And that's Guts' life. That's his upbringing, right? This is his reality, is bloodshed, combat, war. And that's all he's ever known. And no real closeness, no real warmth. Go ahead, sorry.
And we get some more sort of artistic, flexing from Miura throughout this whole arc. The art continues to get better and better. And a lot of the sieges in this are exceptionally well drawn. Like, this isn't even a full spread, right? This is just one panel at the top, and it is very, very well drawn. So again, right, we see Guts pulling a tooth out. Obviously, he's in bad shape. And we skip forward to Guts training, right? Training, as we find out, with real swords. You know, even his the other mercenaries are basically saying, like, oh, what are you doing? Like, he's 6.
Gambino, you're a fucking psycho. Yeah, that's a 6-year-old. What are you doing?
And we see this is not gentle training.
Exactly.
Right? He's beating this poor kid.
Yes.
And again, that idea that, you know, he's got to earn his keep. You know, he is a mercenary, an attitude we will see, you know, Guts carry forward. So again, we're starting to see, you know, Guts, and this is foreshadowing for later, using an adult-sized sword as a kid, the same proportions, right, that he will carry through the rest of his combat career.
That stubbornness and that need to prove himself. Absolutely.
And again, we see Guts able to mark Gambino, right? He's got heart to him. And so he, you know, hits him on the chin. And
this is the measure of Gambino as a human being right here. This is who he is. He is trying to he gives this fucking bullshit, you know what I mean? Like facade of I'm trying to train him. Nah, this guy just likes hurting people, right? And he likes feeling strong, and he likes and he cannot take being insulted or disrespected in any way, right?
Or even in a minor way.
Exactly. As soon as this kid lands something, which even though it's drawing blood from you, bro, you're a mercenary. Like, you can't take that? Are you kidding me? Right? even though he draws blood from him, this should be a moment of like, damn, kid, you're actually like, holy shit, right? But no, it's an immediate censure, right? And not only that, he marks him for the rest of his life. And this is Guts' iconic scar across the nose, right? Like this is like part of his face, right? This is where he gets it right here from his dad, quote unquote, right? This is what this kid grew up with. This is what he had to look forward to. Once you see this, everything about Black Swordsman starts to make a little bit more sense, right? You're like, oh, okay, all right, this kid didn't really have much of a shot. I'm surprised he's alive, is basically how this goes at this point, right? But yeah, this is a really pivotal moment right here. Cuts the bridge of his nose, gives him the scar, and he learns, right? He learns in that moment, right? And I think if I'm correct, not long after that is when you see Guts go to sleep with the sword, holding the blade, right? Because that's all he has. It's the only thing in his life that isn't betraying him, that doesn't hurt him for the things that he does, that doesn't and look, anybody out there that has undergone abuse from a parent, right? I am lucky enough that, or you know, I had a sort of normal childhood, right? And many of us out there did. But there are people who had parents like this, man, that were essentially antagonists in their lives, that did not provide any form of real nurturing, structure, anything like that. Imagine what kind of fucking piece of shit you have to be to try to compete with your kid as a child, right? These people exist by the thousand. So this shot, this right here is like, this is so heartbreaking, right? Like, cold blade is the only thing that this kid has. That is just brutal, right? That's all he can trust. That's all he can rely on. And that's the reason that he is the way he is, right? He learns very, very early. I don't have anybody, but my ability to see myself in the, safe in the world. I can't rely on anybody else for that. And that is proven, very hard, very, not very far in the future.
Yes. And this is another shot like this one right here. We will see repeated over and over again, right? Yes. Miura is very good about doing callbacks to, kind of these iconic moments. You will see Guts in this pose again and again. I mean, really even going up to, issues that have come out in the last year, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to show that because that's sort of an iconic image we'll keep seeing. Going forward a little bit, we see another sort of characterization of Guts, which is how he trains, right? This will be echoed actually in the same recording you're going to be listening to, several issues ahead of this. But we see that, Guts is dedicated to training, right? He is becoming, strong and disciplined with this massive sword, right? And we get a little bit of an insight where he's thinking about it. And he says, when I'm swinging this sword, I don't have to think about anything, right? The idea he can throw himself into combat and not have to, think about the his negative experiences, something that
the pain of his existence
continue to do.
Yes.
Exactly. So Gambino shows up, right? Basically,
and he finally feels some fucking shame. The first time that he actually shows that he's not just purely a piece of garbage, there's some form of redeeming. But at the same time, who knows? Like, I feel like he was probably shamed into doing this by the other mercenaries. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he definitely didn't want to do this. And that's why he doesn't treat it with any form of kindness or warmth. He's just like, take this shit. You know what I mean? I be glad that I did it. You know what I mean? Like that's the way he responds to this, right? He genuinely does not feel any obligation to this child whatsoever.
And we get kind of a touching moment where you can see that Guts is like he starts smiling, right? It's one of the very few moments we see him smile. Is again something as simple as being given a little bit of medicine for these wounds that his father has given him. Back to another siege scene. Again, the art is just so good, right? This is an amazing panel of kind of like, late medieval warfare. You see the very crude cannons, right, as they're attacking this keep. But, right, this is a little bit further ahead. We see, Gambino leaning his men into this kind of breach in the wall. And somewhat later, Guts, right? He has joined the mercenary company. So basically they're charging up into the gap. Again, just great art. If you're a nerd for, medieval arms and armor, there's a lot to pick out here, right? And even, very minor characters in the back are drawn in a lot of detail.
Loving care on everything on screen or on panel.
And we see something that is echoed later, right? Which is, Guts' sort of ability to fight guys much larger than him. So he's fighting full-grown men, in full armor instead of his kind of, scrappy, his kind of scrappy get-up. And we see Guts, kill his first man, right? And shortly afterwards, right, again, a recurring bit, after he kills this guy, a much bigger,
newer, bigger guy,
shows up and just starts beating him. And Gambino comes to his rescue, and we get a lesson, right? He says, this isn't practice. After you've killed someone, move on, watch your back, right? So an interesting characterization moment there. We see Guts disturbed by the fact that he is, he's killed someone. And not only is Gambino telling him to tough it up, but that was not an honorable thing. He snuck up behind this guy and stabbed him in the back. So getting more characterization of Gambino as well.
Yeah, Gambino is the archetypal practical sellsword. He's there to kill people for money. He doesn't care about. He's not a knight. He's not. You know what I mean. Honor and chivalry. None of that means anything to him. He is there for the paycheck, and his work is killing people. It's as simple as that. He doesn't care how he does it. The most important thing to him is making sure that he survives and killing whatever guy's in front of him so that he can get paid. It's as simple as that, right? And he instills these kinds of values in Guts as much as he can. Like he tries to make sure that this kid. There is a sense in which Gambino is like deep, tough love. He's like this. It's by no means would you want a person to treat you like this, right? But it doesn't change the fact that Gambino is actually, to a degree, trying to prepare this child for the kind of life that he's going to have to live. Listen, being a mercenary, a sellsword, is not an easy fucking life at all. So he's like, why the hell am I bringing this kid into this? Like, that was his whole point to begin with the woman, which I don't remember her name now.
I think it's Shishu. If I'm not mistaken.
Something like that. So I think it starts with a C or something. Regardless, he is like, why am I going to have another mouse to feed? Like, this is not a life for a child, man. We're a mercenary band. You're going to bring a baby? Like, what are you, crazy? Right? And to a degree, he's right. Right? And then she dies, and he has to take care of this kid. Right? So he's like, I knew that this was going to happen, and that's why he's so resentful of Guts. That's why he treats him so poorly. Right? You can understand this character, right? Again, Mira's very good. He doesn't, like, even when they seem like cartoon villains, they're not, right? There's something going on under the hood there. So Gambino's interesting, but it doesn't change the fact that he's effectively a piece of shit to this kid, right? It makes no real difference to Guts' experience, but that is what his concern is, kid, you have to be able to survive or else you're just meat. Like, what's the point, right? And you see it. You see it in Guts. Look at his demeanor. Like that's like a 10-year-old. Look at him.
The next scene, right, is after the battle.
Kid will kill you. Yeah. Yep.
The mercenaries are having their plunder, divided up. We see obviously the mercenaries sort of carousing and drinking, and Gambino shares some of the spoils. Right, basically says like, all right, like you're part of this. And we see this, he kind of faint smile from Guts, right? He obviously very proud of, his reward. And we get...
He fucking is. One of the most infamous panels in the history of manga is this guy.
Yeah, so we're going to have to talk around this, right? We're going to have to talk around this. And in the next part, you hear us mentioning that Guts does not like to be touched. Basically what happens is, while, Guts is in his room, that figure, Donovan, comes in and, forces himself upon, Guts as a child, right? It's, I don't want to say is tastefully done, but
it's
what it
not
is.
horribly graphic. I think it's as tasteful as pretty much you can get depicting that, right? A lot of people complain about the depictions of I don't know what terms are best to use here.
Let's just use like sexual assault. We'll use
that's what
the
it's sexual
campus term.
violence, right? Sexual assault,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's a lot of people, and they're mostly women, and women are gay. Complain about the depictions of sexual violence in Berserk. At no point in Berserk does he glorify these acts. Does he make them seem like they're a sick thing that you should want to do? It is always pure victimization of innocence, right? Especially this main character, who is also a child, by the way. There he is. That's that right after.
And so what
people have been
happens?
memeing on that walk for a long time. But yes, that's what happens. And not only that, the most important aspect of this, not just that this happens to him, Donovan makes it. Donovan says explicit to Guts, Gambino sold you.
Yeah,
like
for 3
what do you
pieces
mean?
of silver. Yeah,
why are you fighting me? I paid for this, right? That breaks this child. It's not the act, it's the knowledge that it was sanctioned by the person that this kid relies upon and sees as a father. That is what breaks this kid. It takes a long time for Guts to be able to be normal after this. And I wouldn't even say that he's normal to a degree, right? Yeah, I would say relatively fine. Like he can accept people putting their hand on him. You know what I mean? It takes him forever. But this is why.
So obviously you see again, Guts after the crime, just completely, mentally broken. And it comes back to, Gambino, right? He goes to confront him. He has his sword in hand looking at him. And apparently Gambino denies, like at least plays dumb, right? Kind of casting doubt on this. And he believes, at least for now, Gambino had no knowledge of it, right? Obviously upset, but seemingly he was going to confront his father, bring some kind of justice. But at least for now, the assumption is that's not the case. So fast forward a little bit, right? We see, the mercenary company on the move. And, obviously Donovan over Guts' shoulder, kind of, leering at him. And then, the charge is off. Right. So there's sort of this chaotic battle scene skipping through it. Again, very well illustrated. But as they go to chase some of the stragglers, right? Some people fleeing, Donovan is just mashing these guys with a giant axe. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he gets hit with a crossbow and Guts is standing behind him. Right. Obviously with just murder in his eyes, just, looking for revenge. He shoots him, puts him out. Right. And as he's got, a bolt in the guy's face, he's dying, his sword over top of him. He basically says like, all right, who sold me out? You got to tell me. And he kills him, right? Nothing, just cold blooded. Again, something we will see from Guts, many times.
This is where the Black Swordsman is born, is in these moments. This is where this kid learns. One, he realizes, he can't do anything about what happened to him. All he can do is feel the pain and the anger and the rage, right? The pressure that is built internally upon a person that has this kind of thing happen to them, right? You can't keep that internal. It will break out. And the way in which it manifests for this child is his rage. And this stays with him. Right? The reason that I love this arc so much is because this establishes how Guts responds to the world trying to destroy him. It's one way. He picks up a sword and he fights it. He goes for it and he will kill you. Like right here, he has shown, if you have wronged me, there is no moral system. There's no laws. None of that is going to mean anything to me. I'm going to come for you, right? Guts has already established that he is willing to act outside of sociality. He is willing to be outside of what is considered moral to gets the justice that he believes is correct, and any person would agree with him, right? Like nobody watches that and goes, man, Donovan really should have gone through a trial. Nobody cares, right? But that willingness to go outside of the rules, right? All of this is building into the person that we see him as in the Black Swordsman arc, right? But there is yet more. There is yet more to be inflicted upon this boy, because, as I've said many times to many people, Guts had a hard life.
Right, so moving slightly forward, the battle continues and Gambino is crippled. He loses a leg, I think due to an explosion, or the gate kind of falls over on him. And there's an interesting moment where Gambino is on his back in bed. He's missing a leg, and looking over him, right, Guts is seeing this man who's at one time the most powerful figure in his life, now an invalid. Right, he reflects on Donovan beating him, giving him the cut across the bridge of his nose, but he sees that he's helpless. Right, he sees that he's delirious. He's calling out for help, and he decides to help him. So we skip 2 years forward. Right, we see now Guts has become a full-fledged mercenary. Riding a horse, still again, right, very young, but at this point he's an accomplished killer. And after the battle, he returns back to Gambino, who is, an invalid now, back at camp. Sort of a reversal of situations where now Gambino, right, is a dead weight on Guts.
Absolutely. He is fully transitioned to being deadbeat dad. Even with the dog, it's so brutal. It is so brutal. I killed the animal. Like, look at him. He's so earnest. He just wants his dad to care, to feel like, wow, great job. You did something. Be proud of me, man. Like, what the hell, right? And that he wants that. He craves it because you've seen the one time that happened. Gambino, like, gave him a little compliment, right? Guts was excited. He loves that why would a child not want to feel validation, right? It all tracks. It's all perfect. Like, he's a kid, right? But this guy doesn't give a shit. He's in his own world now. He is fully deadbeat, right? He is. The only thing that matters to him is his own victimization, is his own, like, now I can't be a strong man anymore. Now I can't be the guy I used to be. That's all that matters to Gambino. He doesn't care about Guts. He doesn't care about what Guts does for him. He doesn't care about the fact that Guts is literally providing for him. To him, it's like that's just what you should do. This guy is the biggest scumbag dad of all. I think in all manga, this guy is the scumbag dad. I don't think it gets worse than him.
Well, and we see him, right, even as an invalid, using his crutches to slap Guts upside the head for not returning the wine quick enough.
Yep. Exactly. Get me drunk faster, right? It's insane.
Right. So going forward, we see this interaction where he's kind of, Gambino is sort of sparring with the other mercenaries, again, trying to sort of reestablish his authority. And back in the kind of treasure room, right, we see Guts is furious. He's been given a large reward for killing the enemy general, but obviously he's mad that about the interaction with his father. So as he kind of spikes the gold on the ground, buries his sword in the in the support to the tent, and that's the end of it. But it goes back to his tent later, kind of. It's shot very similarly to both Guts falling asleep with the sword earlier and also the scene with Donovan. And towering over top of him in the middle of the night after this interaction, we see Gambino, right, with his sword out. You're seemingly going to kill his dutiful adopted son. So he just, right, look at, again, you're well said, right? Sharp teeth, blank eyes. This sort of just motivated by murderous rage, and almost without saying anything, he swings for him, right? He's just going for it. Guts is obviously disturbed by this. His first thought is he's drunk. And, oh yeah, Shishu, that is the name. I had that correct. And he's furious with him. Basically saying, like, you cursed me. You were unlucky, right? That idea of being cursed, something that will carry through with him. He tells him, on that day 11 years ago, you should have died, like over and over again. Still, seemingly this was just a ruse because, while Guts is looking, despondent, Gambino just swings for him. And finally, Guts decides to fight back, right? He pulls out a sword and starts defending himself. And we get the final confirmation, right? Gambino admits he sold him for 3 silver coins. Right? Again, this is a very disturbing moment. And he says, I was sick of you. I wanted rid of you. I wanted you gone.
You killed Shisu, he says. You killed Shisu. He blames this kid for everything. Like, this is I feel like anyone who had an alcoholic dad or something, right? Like, I was fortunate enough I didn't have to deal with that kind of thing. My dad was a pretty normal guy. But I have heard absolute horror stories from people that I know very well, right? That this is exactly the kind of thing that would happen. Guy barges into your room in the middle of the night. He's fucked up and he just starts dumping all of his problems on you and saying they're because of you. Things like this are hyper common in these kinds of relationships with extremely dysfunctional people like this, right? Like, this is despite this being in a fantasy, manga that takes place in medieval times, these are real interactions between people. These are real interpersonal relationships that children have been hurt like this so many times, right? This is why Berserk has this reputation. The people that have read it, that have given it the time, that have not just looked at it as some sort of like torture porn, like a in the most shallow sense, that can look at these he's doing so much in these panels. There's so much to all the reactions, to the facial, responses. These are, he writes them like they're real humans, right? And that's the mark of a good author, right? Obviously, and a mark of a good storyteller. This scene, it's so devastating. Like, all of this kid's worst anxieties are being confirmed by the only person that he didn't want them to be confirmed by, while he's trying to kill him. And it's like, he can't be more candid. He's drunk. You know what I mean? It's not like he's lying. He's saying exactly what he feels, right? And it's the first time that Gambino's really being honest with this kid, and he just uses it to destroy him emotionally so he can kill him. And the result is
Guts kills Gambino. Again, the high contrast style we see, at these sort of moments, right? The black background, the white foreground, all the shading in between, just excellently illustrated. But he is, he's a patricide. He has killed his father, despite everything else. Again, very dramatic scene. Way to end, that volume. The action picks up almost immediately afterwards. Guts is forced to, beat a retreat, right? He's obviously, horrified. As
the mercenary band turns on him. They assume that he murdered him and he has to just run. And again, any person, and especially any man, like this, women do enjoy Berserk, but Berserk is like, it is a story for males. This is about, in many ways, so much of what makes it what it is about what it is to be male. You know what I mean? And how our position in the world is sort of dictated for us, right? In many ways, and for much of the history of man, right? Now, everybody is a soldier, right? I'm not trying to imply that all males are soldiers and that's how it worked. But at the drop of a hat, you would be expected to be. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that is our role. That is our job, is to potentially die for the greater whole. So the nature of these things, how Guts responds to them, and not just him, but many of the other characters, right? There's a reason that this story is so, it touches so close to so many guys that read this, right? They feel it. They imagine being this kid, man. They put themselves in the position of that child. They remember what they were as children, and they look at this and imagine themselves in this position. Man, imagine being hunted by a bunch of dudes you know. For a thing you didn't even, your dad's trying to kill you, you defend yourself, and then these guys are trying to murder you on top of that. Like, this is just horror story. This kid's whole life is just remember that series, A Series of Unfortunate Events? That could have been the English title of Berserk, genuinely, because that is like Guts' life, right? It's just one bad thing into another, right? And this kid just surviving it as best he can. Yeah, he has to run.
Certainly. Yeah. So he's on the run. Again, we see that repetition, the idea that he is cursed. So the mercenary band catches up to him, right? He's unable to escape. They shoot him, and in very theatric form, he tumbles into a river, right? When he regains consciousness, we get just a very beautiful shot, right, of him laying on his back, an arrow, poking up through his chest. There it is. The stars, over top of him. But right, the peace doesn't last. Right, he gets up. Obviously, he sees the beautiful sky, and as he's sort of stumbling along with the sword, again, something we will see often repeated, he's sort of wondering, what's the point of even living anymore, right? What's the point of living in a world where there's only bad things? But despite that, right, despite the fact that he lives, a horrible life, he's know nothing but kind of violence and betrayal. When the wolves come around, he can't stop fighting, right?
Exactly.
Despite the fact that his life is horrible, he
literally says it's over, and he just automatically reacts, right? I love this. This is that, indomitable human spirit meme. Guts is that character. He can't just go down. You know what I mean? There's something in him that goes, nah, fuck that.
Well, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this section is heavily referenced in Jinro. Like the visuals are very similar.
In Jinro, the Wolf Brigade? Yeah, I think so. It's been such a long time since I watched Jinro that I can't remember.
And who knows if it even was deliberate or not, but these are very similar scenes. Though. Yeah, and super influential in the right time too.
Exactly. Yeah. By the way, everybody out there, if you haven't seen Jinro, the Wolf Brigade, go watch Jinro, the Wolf Brigade. It is fucking sick.
In 3 years, Remus, when we're done with this, I want to bring you on to do a review of that because I love that. And almost no one else will talk to me about it. It's actually a previous version of my podcast intro. It pulled a lot from Jinro.
Jinro fucking rules. Jinro fucking rules. It is absolutely amazing. Beautiful work. Again, beautiful work. A lot of the stuff that was coming out late 80s, early 90s of Japan was just fucking fantastic. They really, really cared. A lot of love, soul went into that stuff, both from animation, storytelling, the manga themselves, right? The drawings, the drafts work, all of it is these are all monumental works in my opinion. This is like a true a movement, a time frame that was like it laid such a powerful foundation for what we're in now. Think about the amount of big sword guys, right? Like think about all of that, right? We live in a world that was in many ways like the flavor of the water was helped to be created by these stories, right? These aesthetic languages. 4 years later, what a beautiful time to go.
Yeah, so
it's such a spread, bro. Holy,
I know. I should stop doing this because it's probably repetitive to hear two guys on a podcast say this art's really good. But man, the art's really good. Like, what are you gonna say?
That's part of the story of what Berserk is. It's Miura's drawings. He is like, if Berserk was drawn and written by a lesser artist, I don't think it would have that same cultural impact that it does. It was the aesthetic sensibilities of Kentaro Miura that led it to where it was. It's not just the choices that he made, it's the fidelity with which he can realize these things. It's the way he frames, it's the way he panels. That is part of the entire manga is a visual feast. You can literally spend more time just looking at the images than reading the dialogue and the plot. There's that much packed in. And that's part of the reason also why this manga was done monthly. And part of the reason why it took so long in some places to get finished is because he's doing this shit. You know what I mean? If this took 3 months to make, I wouldn't be surprised. But he was putting these out monthly. So that tells you also what the workload must be like.
Oh, well, and it's like, obviously it's grim, but he did actually work himself to death.
Yeah, he literally died at his desk. His aortic artery, so one of the main arteries into the heart, it split open, and he bled out and died. That's how my boy died. Absolutely brutal. Can't stand it. Really, really heartbreaking, man. And he died. He also died like a few days before my birthday. It was really brutal for me. I was so upset. Holy shit. Let's continue though.
Returning to the narrative, he's able to fend off the wolves, right? He's injured. He's already been shot. Passes out and is picked up by another one of these traveling mercenary bands. So 4 years later, right, we see this siege again, man. Even the background characters are just so well done. And as you know, the gate busts down, right? This army is surging in. We get a
classic Berserk moment.
Just a
big ass guy. Big ass guy shows up.
Just a goon, right? Yeah. And as he's standing in the line, right, the leader, chopper. The sort of noble, is ordering his men forward. They won't do it. And he basically calls it to the crowd. It's like, all right, who's gonna take care of this?
They have a Troy moment, right? Like, call forth your champion, right?
Yeah.
And Guts doesn't even say nothing. He just strides forward, and he's obviously young. He is still a young person. He's not a kid anymore. Let's keep in mind, everything up to this point, he was 11, right? He was 11 years old when he killed Gambino and had to run away. He's 15 here?
Yeah, plus or minus, yeah.
Yeah, that is insane, right? And this kid is obviously, like, just to look at him, right? This is a hard person. And this kid is ruthless. There's no mercy in the eyes. There's no hesitation. He looks like he knows exactly what he is doing. Everybody counts him out, right? I love this when he starts negotiating the price.
Yes.
For killing this guy. Oh my God. So disrespectful.
Well, and this is again, this sort of great line art we see, but he, is successfully able to kill this man.
I actually think that the transition between the last volume and this one is significant. The improvement in the artwork, and the artwork was already really, really good, but even this sequence just here is already better than every combat sequence that he's done previous to this. Right, the implication of speed and power that he's putting here. There are a couple of just briefly. They made 3 Berserk movies. All right, most of the animated Berserk stuff is passable or terrible. Everything made recently is genuinely so bad that do not watch it. It actually ruins it in many ways.
Like the 2016 stuff's awful.
Yeah, absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. But there were 3 films that were made. They're based on this arc, the Golden Age, right? They don't show I don't think they show the stuff when he's a little kid, but it starts basically from here, right? This fight and the whole Band of the Hawk, all of that. They're pretty great in some ways. There are problems with them, obviously, but they're pretty great in some ways. And one of the ways that I really, really enjoy that film is the way in which they depict this fight, because they make Guts seem completely psychotic. If you were to fight somebody who could move like that with that kind of weapon, he's putting you into pieces in seconds. Like this, it's like, as I've said before, it's like fighting an industrial machine rather than a person. He's hitting you harder than you think he should be able to hit you, and he's doing it too many times. Look at this guy. This guy's massive. And he's like, what is going on? This is a 15-year-old. He outweighs him probably by 200 pounds, and he's getting pushed back. Right? This kid is nasty. He is insanely strong, and he's very, very good at swordsmanship. He's not just swinging around a big heavy sword and hitting people hard. He can swing it with the speed of a lesser weapon. He is not just good, he's excellent. Right? He is extremely dangerous already, and he's 15 years old. Right? Yeah, so he works this dude. And there it is. Look at that face.
Yeah, that's an iconic illustration.
All right, they're already sort of foreshadowing the eye, right? Only the one eye, right? Yeah,
100%. So the battle continues, right? He kills this champion. Then afterwards, we see an interesting again, continuing the kind of mirror between, Griffith and Guts that's sort of at the beginning of this. After the battle is over, right, this nobleman who offered him the money, right, basically comes back afterwards and says, like, all right, like, you did a really good job. Not only are you getting a cash reward, but if you want, I'll promote you to a squire, right, offer you a chance at minor nobility. And Guts just leaves. Right? He's just completely uninterested. There's
His
a moment where
basically sounds gay and walks away.
Pretty much. We actually see him strike this noble when he puts his hand on him for
absolutely
obvious reasons.
Don't
but nonetheless,
yeah.
He leaves. There's a shot where we see during the battle, right? Griffith is there too, and he's noticed Guts.
Yeah, he watches the fight. He watches the fight between Guts and Balsuzo.
Yeah, for those wondering, much like Dark Souls or any other Japanese property with Western tones, there's a whole lot of fake words that sound like English words to Japanese people. You're just gonna have to get used to it,
especially names. Yeah,
100%.
Just embrace the names. Allow it.
So next, we see Guts, walking away by himself, and Griffith's band notices him. Right, Griffith is just passed out. A couple of the guys he's
leisurely laying in the grass like a little cool guy. You know what I mean? He's just hanging out.
Right, and we're
he's hippie maxing. You know what I mean? He's just chilling.
Yeah, he's grounding. But basically, a couple of the mercenaries decide to go after him. Right, like, oh, he's probably got a bunch of money on him. So armed men bear down on him. Guts
on horseback.
Really horseback, without skipping a beat. He just cuts the first guy down. Right. Again, just completely bisects one of the first unnamed goons. Again, another great panel here. And obviously, the men start to surround him. Right. He's fending them off. He cuts another guy's arm off. But they call back for help, right? To Casca, who will become a character. We'll see much more from her. But basically, these couple guys have gotten into a situation where they can't handle it. So they're calling for more help. So she, armors up, goes in. Guts is still, staring down, the rest of the guys. But Casca shoots him, right? Just out
shoots
of nowhere.
Him in the arm with a crossbow bolt, yeah.
Yeah. Which is, it's sort of dirty pool, but neither here nor there. So point is, the fight continues. Guts is wounded, but still going, and him and Casca go at it. She's on horseback. He's not. They're trading blows. Again, art is very, very good here. And, he knocks her helmet off. He gets the advantage.
And you can tell she's good because she can actually parry him, right? She immediately notes that he's way stronger than she thought he would be. And she's like, what? Holy shit. But she can still keep him from just destroying her, right? So she has that skill. And then he gets surprised at the fact that she's a girl. He's like, what the hell? Right? She's a woman. I would have never expected that, right? And which something, people like to do the whole Casca's a girl, how come, right? And it's like, guy, listen, blades are blades. They are force equalizers, right? If you know how to use a sword and fight with a sword, you being 30% stronger or whatever really isn't that big of a deal. And the way swords fighting works, you can block a heavier, stronger blow relatively easily because it's about physical structure. It's physics. It's not a like, oh, I hold my arm out there, and if I'm strong enough, I can block your blow. It's you're trying to push through my entire body. It's like grappling. You know what I mean? If you know how to do it, somebody being strong doesn't make a difference. It's about technique, right? So she can, to a degree, she like, it's not insane to imagine that a woman would be able to kill people with a fucking weapon, right? It's not impossible.
Well, and to be fair, she is exceptional. Like,
yes, she's not
no one
considered,
else like her.
Yeah, exactly. She's not considered. This isn't considered like normal. Casca is a exceptional person by every means. There's no other women fighters in the band, right? Obviously, you put her there because it was cool to have a woman in the story, but I like Casca. I like Casca as a character. I think she's interesting in her own right. Her own little conflict that's going on in her head is interesting. Her dynamic with Griffith and Guts is interesting. And her position in the band, I also think, is interesting because she's sort of like a manager, administrator, right? She's the one who she's like the disciplinarian where Griffith runs the show, right? Casca is always the person who's reprimanding people, right? She's the one telling Corcus not to go after Guts in the first place. She's the one who is like, he's gonna do something to you, and then it happens. She's the one that comes to bail them out. She's like mom, right?
And so
yeah,
you're completely correct. But as the the fight wraps up, Griffith basically throws a spear into it. He breaks up the fight. Again,
very
just
Kino.
a super cool image.
Very
Kino. Ominous. Yes.
His design is so masterful. I love his, like, the helmet is so iconic, right? This is such a perfectly rendered character. And then I think right after that, right, he takes the helmet off and he reveals his luscious locks and his full mane of, he basically is like Legolas. You know what I mean?
Not
He's
quite
like
yet, because the
okay.
two of them fight first, right? He enters the fight, and he actually wounds Guts, right? He's
because Guts swings at him hard, and he just catches it in a great moment, right? He's just like, "Yep, you're not that big, kid. Simmer down." You know what I mean, kid? Simmer down. There's other people who are strong out there, guy. You know what I'm saying? Well, great moment.
Another great moment, right? Guts is wounded, but he uses his sword to pick back up, right? He's, again, this is an image or a pose we see Guts in often, right? Using his sword to kind of hold himself up as he's wounded. So Griffith is obviously impressed, right, by Guts' abilities. And as Guts basically leans back to swing for him, he passes out, right? And then that is that moment where we see Griffith take off his helmet, and he's this sort of Legolas-like angelic figure, right?
He's almost
white
cherubic.
hair.
Yes, he's cherubic. He's like almost like in a beauty in the sense that a child is beautiful, right? Not in like a lustful or like desirous way. It's just a purely
in no way sensual. Yeah,
like exactly, right. He's like an ethereal beauty, a thing that is beautiful regardless of all the context that it's in. It simply is beautiful, like a flower or something like that, which is the opposite of
yes.
You know what I'm saying? They couldn't be more different. Guts is grunting and grit and pain and bleeding and fucking scars, and Griffith is untouched, completely calm, all white, never even fucking says anything. Just pure, like, cold, rational serenity, right? Like, he's like Galadriel. He has this distance that gives him a sense of almost like regents, like he feels regal. He feels above them. Yeah, and there's the dream.
Right. So Guts is he's unconscious.
Yeah, he passes out.
Right.
And this is his fever dream, right?
Having this, nightmare of a figure chasing a naked younger version of himself. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what's going on there. And
not hyper subtle. Yeah.
What we see is, he's swinging at this figure. His sword is cutting through him. And, as this happens, he sees Gambino, over his shoulder on this pile of bones. And he's, asking, like, Gambino, save me. The sword isn't working. And he tells him to look at the sword, and it's transformed into his severed leg. And he says, I'm dead. You killed me. And it hurt. And there's this sort of very grim image of Gambino with his still talking with his neck halfway through. Again, we see more and more of this kind of surreal element. The dog has transformed into the plague-stricken vision of his adopted mother. And, as the monster bears down on him, right, with the face of Donovan, he sees, Gambino and his adopted mother, as skeletons, right, saying over and over again, you should have died. So, again, a very grim scene.
Man, it's so heartbreaking how much guilt he carries for this. Imagine feeling guilty for killing fucking Gambino, bro. right? Like that is the like. Something I think is so important about Guts, right? Something to keep in mind. Guts is a deeply empathetic and sensitive person. He is not just because he is hard on the outside, right? Because he understands I have to shield myself from the world, right? His truth, the core of him, is one that feels guilty for killing a man who could not have abused him more. He feels guilt for the fact that this woman took him in and then died, even though it had nothing to do with him. He feels guilty for being this cursed child, despite the fact that there's no real evidence that that's the case. It's just the hearsay, the happenstance, the way of the world, and the way people will see him as a result, right? It's like how being a bastard was, or being a fucking albinos in some parts of the world. You know what I mean? They're just like, that's fucked up and weird, right? And now all of a sudden you have a terrible life as a result of something you have no control over, a complete coin flip. You had nothing to do with it, nothing to do with your personality or who you are. It's just that makes me fucking feel fucked up. So that's the way it is now, right? This kid has to bear that burden, right? And you see, despite his facade or sort of demeanor or the way he carries himself, this still weighs very heavily upon him, and he feels it, right? Every second, seemingly, there's a reason that he doesn't let people touch him. So yeah, this is and again, Mira's not. He's not like Mira and Berserk is full of subtlety, right? But he's not always relying upon that. Sometimes it's just showing you obviously this is the case. And to be fair, also this was written in like the early '90s, so this was subtle for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, by the standards of the medium, especially. Right.
Exactly. The medium and the time, this is the most progressive, like it's very like, wow, he's really showing it, but yeah, no, nowadays, right. We look at this and it's like, yeah, no, it's clear what is happening here. Right.
So Guts, after, we see this vision, we see these sort of vague images of him in bed with a woman. Don't know quite who. He wakes up. He is in the mercenary band. He sees, Griffith, which he obviously remembers, and then Casca talking. And Casca just walks up to him and smacks him, right? Says, I wish you died. He's obviously in a lot of pain. And it's confirmed that, Griffith told Casca, like, hey, hop in bed with Guts. He's lost a lot of blood. You need to keep him alive. So, insinuating why she's a little mad at him, and also sort of laying the grounds for their romance later. But as he walks up to Griffith hands him his sword, saying like, oh wow, this is really incredible. Two of them start talking. We get some more characterization of the other kind of members of this crew, right? I'm skipping over for the sake of time. This is interesting. But basically he says, like, we were in the same battle together. And the two of them stand on top of this hill, and, Griffith asks him, like, well, why didn't you kill me? And Griffith says something we will hear him say many times, because I want you. Of course, Guts is like, dude, that's pretty gay, man. Yeah, which is kind of funny, right?
Yes.
But yes. Griffith decides, no, like, I saw, how you fight. I saw that, the way that you sort of deliberately gamble on your own life. And it's like, oh, that's really impressive.
You're honest. I love that. I love this aspect. Griffith, he understands who he's looking at so well. It really shows who this guy really is. He's a person who understands other human beings. And not only that, but he has a respect for a certain type of human being. He's Nietzschean in this way, right? He respects the will. He respects a person who will walk the tightrope, because that is the kind of life that he lives, and the kind of life that he wants to continue to live. And not just that, but Griffith is also a pragmatic person. Why does he want Guts? Because Guts is fucking useful. That's why. Because he can use Guts. And both in a possessive way and in a sort of like more familiar way. Because I don't think Griffith, especially in the early parts of this, I don't think Griffith is just manipulative psycho. That's not as simple as that. Griffith is a very interesting character. There's a reason that so many people identify with Griffith and Guts, right? But Griffith in particular, because Griffith has a dream. We all have that, right? I think any one of us that isn't just, some sort of Shudra, like fucking Hylic, we all have dreams. We all have an ambition or desire that we want to strive for. And Griffith exemplifies that extremely well. And he is willing to cooperate with other people to make that happen. He understands that he can't necessarily do it alone, and he will stand on the shoulders of others to do it, but he will do it, right? And once he sees Guts, he realizes that this guy is going to be a pivotal part of this. He has this like foresight to understand what he's looking at. So Griffith is a deeply ambitious person. He's a person who looks to the future. He's young, clearly. They're all like the same age-ish, right? They're all young people. But Griffith is not like the rest of them. And that's why he runs the show. That's why he's the Hawk, right? He has a mind that is operating at another level compared to the people around him. And not just that, he is ambitious and all of that stuff, but he's also skilled. He has the ability to back up his will. He's not just some guy who has a lot of talk. He will walk the walk as well. And that is what this last little duel is. It is the solidification that Griffith is not just words. Griffith is for real. And Guts learns that as well, right? He is willing. This fight is fantastic. I love it. Right? The saber versus the big sword, right? It's sick. You're muted.
Incredibly professional podcaster.
Okay,
you're 100% correct. This is very well drawn. We see obviously the visual contrast, also the fighting style contrast. Gust is using these huge aggressive swings where Griffith with his saber is very deftly parrying, and Griffith makes him an offer, basically says like, hey, do you want to be one of my guys? And Guts says no, right? Very similar to the offer given him by the nobleman. So the two of them, fight it out, right?
Guts essentially says, if you beat me, I'll do whatever you want. I don't really care, right? And then he gets absolutely styled on.
In an iconic moment, right? Yes. And this is something that will be, again, you'll see this image repeated again and again. He makes a crazy aggressive swing, and Griffith jumps on top of the sword, right? Pinning it down. And he's completely at his mercy, right? Sword at the throat. Basically says like, yeah, you'll do anything to win, even sacrifice, your own life. I really like that. But guess what? I got you. And what Guts does is he bites down on the sword. Right, he's again willing to sacrifice his own body to a truly psychotic degree to win. And what he does is, he basically uses the sword trapped in his teeth, the other one to like launch Griffith over
as leverage, right? Yeah,
yeah. And now it's a fist fight, right? It's ugly.
Yeah, then he makes it dirty. Yeah, he makes it dirty, which is great, right? It's great. It's emblematic of, again, the kind of person that Guts is. If I can't beat you, fuck that. I'm going to beat you. I don't care, right? I will make it happen. I will figure it out. I will turn it into a different thing, right? And again, beautiful characterization, right? You expect, Griffith doesn't have it, right? Now he's on the back foot. Now Guts has got him because he made it ugly. This pretty boy doesn't have it. And that is not the case. That is not
right,
who this guy
Guts
is.
even spits his own blood in his face, right? But Griffith picks up
and then we get this first glimpse. Look at his face. That is rapture. That is like nirvanic joy. And why? Because Griffith in that moment, it's not it's a reveal of Griffith's evil. It's not so simple. That is what Griffith looks like when he knows he is going to win. When he knows he's going to get what he wants. That's the face he makes because he knows that it's checkmate As soon as this happens, it initiates the sequence of grappling that leads to he dislocates the arm, right? Gets him perfect. And it's like, Griffith has this moment of like ecstasy. Like, yes, I get it. And that really, what it shows is the only time that Griffith will like crack the perfect facade is when he's getting what he wants. And he shows that glee, almost like childlike glee of like, yes, I'm getting what I desire, right? Now you belong to me.
And in a moment that's a little more sinister, right? We see that kind of angelic visage slightly twisted, right? He looks him dead in the eye and says like, you're mine now. Like you're one of my band. And so time sort of continues on, right? Guts is injured. Obviously he's had his, his arm completely and totally, dislocated. We get some more kind of commentary, where the other members of the Band of the Hawk are kind of going back and forth. We also see that at least currently Casca and Guts do not get along at all, but nonetheless, right, they're prepared for a battle. Everyone is, on side, right? Guts and Casca, everyone. I'm skipping over a little bit because we have a little bit of a time constraint, but this is still very, good characterization. And
ultimately what we're doing here is we're moving through it, right? But everyone, you must read this. If you have any interest or desire, you must read these things. All of the subtle moments, all the little things, the interpersonal relationships between the band members, all of that stuff is deeply pivotal because these are the relationships that are going to define the rest of Guts's life. These are the people that he will come to know as friends and comrades. These are the people that he will be willing to, for the first time, put his life on the line for. Because every other time in Guts' life, the only times that he really risked his life was for his own sake, right? For his own life or for his own survival. But these people, these are true comrades, right? In Japanese, there's friend, the word friend, tomodachi, right? Which is like a friend or acquaintance, person that you know, right? But nakama is like comrade. It's like brother. It means a close bond of true, like we are brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like this, we have the same goals. We have the same enemies. We have the same loves and hate. We are as one line, right? That is what that word means, and that's why when he finally attributes that to these people, to the Band of the Hawk, right? This is a completely different world from the world he grew up in, a world where it was essentially dog eat dog, and at his most vulnerable, right? Now, when he finally has the strength to be on his own, he learns to, I guess the best way to put it is like, he learns once, it's like the Band of the Hawk teaches him once he has the strength to live on his own, to survive on his own, he learns that he doesn't have to. Do you know what I'm saying? He learns that you don't have to go to sleep expecting people are going to come kill you. You don't have to sleep with a blade. You don't have to do these things. You can live a life in which the people around you are people that you can trust to have your back. And that's what he learns with the band, right? That's why this part of the story is so important to this guy, because before, his life was nothing but suffering. His life was nothing but pain. His life was nothing but hoping that the people around you aren't going to betray you or kill you or try to fucking, send the Donovan after you, right? This is the other side. It's the heal, right? It's the moment in which a person can heal finally from their wounds. And that's why this is so important. That's why I love it so much. This is why everyone loves the Golden Age so much, because you get to see your boy having a nice life for a little bit,
Well, and you're completely correct. And we're also in this next scene getting some characterization of Griffith, right? Effectively, we learn that he is a very capable commander, right? He launches this audacious surprise attack, right? Taking these horses up a river, and it's just full rout, right? Again, very well drawn, right? This is, one of many kind of iconic cavalry charges, but nonetheless,
Yes.
right? The Band of the Hawk is just, laying waste to them. And
To me, Griffith is like, he's like Alexander.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? He has that same aura, that same, everyone gets swept up in it, right? And the acumen, the ability. It's not just that he has a legend, he actually is that guy, Yeah, that's what I think that's the best real world parallel for the characterization of Griffith at this point.
Well, and as the volume concludes, this will lead us into our last discussion. We see there's a counterattack, right? The siege has started. The general has launched out some cavalry to rout this surprise attack, and that's where we pick up in our next discussion.
Yeah.
All right, Remus, welcome to the Jay Burden Show. How you doing, man?
Not bad. I've been anticipating this one. This is an exciting one for me. I love this shit. You know what I mean? I'm a fan of the big sword guy. Yeah.
I've been anticipating this as a nice way to say you're shit at scheduling, and we should have done this a month and a half ago.
No, I didn't mean it that way, but I've definitely like, it's not even that. It's like we got together to do this, right? We were recommended sort of to link up, right? Because I've wanted to talk about this one for forever, right? Like, I think everybody knows this by now, I think, right? I think Berserk is it has sort of reached a level of cultural saturation. All anime, right? There's been a huge wave of this. It's been kind of very interesting to see the rise of this medium in the West. As a kid who, like, man, I was there was a time frame where you would be made fun of if you watched Japanese cartoons, even though everybody was still children. You know what I mean? It didn't even make sense. It was like, that's childish. It's like, dude, we're 11 years old. What are you talking about, right? So I was a DBZ watcher, and even like Sailor Moon back in the day, right? So to watch the rise of it, to watch it become sort of like a firmly implanted within the cultural zeitgeist, and become almost like oversaturated is crazy, right? But Berserk is something that I think is kind of like it's like an old weathered rock that things, like orbit around or slosh around, right? The waters rise and fall, but this thing stays there. And it's been there for a reason. And I think this arc in particular, the Golden Age, is the foundation of that mountain, right? Like this is where Mira shows that he isn't just writing something that is essentially a kind of like a rip off of Fist of the North Star, and instead we're making something that's really considered and willing to go places that most of these things are not willing to go.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think I come at this slightly differently because when I was growing up, anime was sort of starting its like cultural ascendancy. Like it had very much become something.
How
that's
old are
part
you?
of
Do you mind?
26.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. Okay, yeah, I'm like a decade older than you, right? So, just slightly, but same. For me, it was even less than what you're saying, right? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was a rise, but it at our time, it was like almost nobody watched this. Like only little kids watched this shit. Other than that, it was like considered like very, you know what I mean? But sorry, go ahead.
No. And so it was interesting because when I grew up, it was sort of part of the like mainstream alt identity, where you were like just a little bit out of, mainstream culture for whatever that works, but still very much an acceptable, normal thing to do, right? Safe, edgy, as the kids would say.
Yes.
And what's interesting is that certain aspects of, Japanese culture can or cannot be assimilated into that. For instance, like on the video game side, you see things like Dead or Alive, which is just like absolutely hated by the kind of like Reddit mod crowd because it's
by squares.
Socially unacceptable.
100%. Normies cannot stand the Kino. Yeah.
And Berserk is in sort of a similar position. And so you'll see this dialogue come up from time to time, talking about the prevalence of, there's a lot of adult material in this, right? There's a lot of sexual assault. There's a lot of, violence. There's a lot of depravity in this.
And death. Yeah.
100%. Like that's to be perfectly blunt about it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And look, like this isn't like if you even have to say it, it's not like a pro thing, but it
handles it horrifically. It's like I don't think anything handles as well as Berserk, and that's crazy because of the way that I understand exactly what you're talking about. There's a discourse and a perception around Berserk that it's essentially like it revels in degrading and destroying the female characters, and it revels in especially Casca, you know what I mean? I don't agree with that even upon reread, right? As a like when I first read this, I was like 19, right? Or actually I was probably 17, right? At the time I was into anime. I liked anime a lot, right? Like I was more into manga even. Because I early on I read like some kid at my school brought a Shonen Jump once in 8th grade, and that one event, like, you know what I mean? Like I read through it and I was like, holy shit. Like in it was like Naruto, Bleach, Yu Yu Hakusho. Fuck, it was like all killer, no filler, right? So I was like, this stuff is way cooler than most of the stuff that I've seen, right? It was sort of very shocking for young me, right? So growing up, I gravitated towards the manga side. I read Berserk, I read Bleach, I read Naruto as they were coming out. But I had never read anything like Berserk at the time, right? It was so much more, for lack of better words, it was so much more mature. It was so much more, it was considered. It was more, it was more elaborate artistically. It felt like an evolution, right, of the medium. Despite the fact that it came out, it started in the 80s, right? Mira's just that
honestly,
good.
Like I'm not really a fan of anime or manga. It's not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I sort of view this in the same realm as like, Akira or something like that, where it almost transcends the medium. Like this is art. And even if you're not the kind of guy who reads manga is we kind of derogatorily refer to as a weeb. Read this. It's really good.
Exactly.
Before we jump into it, because I want to get into the segment we're reading. Two things. One, dude, I have never started a series and gotten more people chimping out at me to continue it. Now, part of that is because there was a big gap between episode 1 and episode 2 of this series, right? The other part is people really are interested in this topic. So I'm excited about that. But I got a message after the last one came out from a buddy of mine. He lives here locally, and he's listens to the show every once in a while. And so I got this message at like 10 a.m. on a Sunday. It says, "I'll have you know, I read all of Berserk. It's a bit much, but damn, it was really good." And I think that's about the best review I could get, right? Someone who's not
is as succinct as it gets. Yeah. A bit much is a way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the last section I did, right? The Black Swordsman arc is both functions as sort of a primer, right? You meet the character, but also it's an earlier, less developed version of Guts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It was sort of the pitch deck, if you will.
In preparation for this, I reread everything up to basically when Zod goes, "All right, boy, it's time to show you what the fuck is up," right? And the Black Swordsman, man, it's insane. That arc is like, it's a completely different thing. Like, especially like the first like 3 or 4 chapters. It's like, this feels like a different manga. Like it clearly he didn't really know what Berserk was at the time, right? He just wanted to make like a thing about a cool guy who fucking kicks people's asses and slashes them in half with a giant fucking sword, right? Because that rules. Yeah. And at the time, 100%. To be fair, right? To be fair to him, right? It's so funny how he's the water that people are swimming in and they don't even realize it, right? And not to say that Mira is some sort of like, visionary innovator. That is not his skill. His skill is fine tune, those skills. It's not necessarily about like, wow, he's made something that has changed all of fiction, like, you know, something like a Tolkien. He's not doing that, right? What Mirror was doing, especially at the beginning, was he clearly really liked Fist of the North Star, right? Because Berserk is essentially, what if Kenshiro was an asshole? Fist of the North Star's whole thing is that the main character is like, he's the ultimate moral guy, right? Like he's like a knight in shining armor. He always does the right thing, and he's like pretty much invincible, right? Whereas, you know, in Berserk, right? Despite the fact that, you know, Guts is also like a sort of wandering form of justice, he is his own moral compass, right? And he doesn't follow like a sort of like a social ethic, right? He's very antisocial, and he's absolutely effective and super brutal, right? So he has that Kenshiro power, but he doesn't have that Kenshiro ethical framework. In many ways, I've heard. I personally have not read the OG Devilman, because that's what this stuff is like inspired by. Just so everybody understands, right? Uh, uh, Devilman Crybaby is a recently made Netflix show that is Devilman, like a sort of like a reboot. But the OG Devilman is like, I'm talking about, these are things like like the way that Astro Boy is part of Japanese, you know, like cultural framework. Devilman is the same thing. It is like an OG comic book series that everybody knows. So Miro was a big fan of that, and Devilman also has a sort of Griffith-like character. But those were his inspirations, and you can see that especially in the Black Swordsman arc, that he kind of just wanted to make something like Fist of the North Star. But Golden Age, that's where this really like comes alive, right? You see hints of it at the end of the Black Swordsman arc. Obviously, the last chapters of Black Swordsman are like explicitly like he's figured out what he wants to do with this, right? You see Femto, right? You see the God Hand, right? All of that stuff with that last apostle is really interesting. But then it's like, okay, how did we get here, right? And he gives it to you, and it starts in a way that, you know, this is spectacular. I think this is such a good way to start with this characters, right? Like this kid is literally born from a corpse, right?
We'll get into that. We'll get into that, Remus. I'm trying to avoid any direct spoilers for the guys kind of reading along with us.
Oh, if you are watching this and you have not read Berserk, what I would suggest is for you to stop and go read it. At least read up to where we are talking, which is let me just make sure I'm correct here.
Well, dude, what I've done is I've just included the link to a pirate site where you can see it all on your computer for free. Like, right,
absolutely.
Like the first thing, like
everyone
look, like the physical stuff's great.
Everyone should read manga online for free. And then once you've decided, wow, this is a work that is beautiful and I really want to contribute to this person's coffers, then buy their stuff if you want. I don't care. I've read, I can't even, thousands and thousands of chapters of things that I was not allowed, and I don't give a shit, right? This is the way, the only reason that manga is and anime are the cultural zeitgeist that they are these days is because of these websites. It's not because everybody was out buying fucking anime DVDs. That's not what people do. They go to pirated anime websites, or they go to pirated manga websites and they read them. And then if they love it, they buy it. Or they fucking go to Japan. They turn people into fucking like cultists, man. It's like it's worth. That's why they allow it to happen, in my opinion. Because I don't think that these companies would have the hardest time going for these kinds of websites. Regardless, I think, yeah, you should probably go read, because I'm going to do my best to not be spoilery, but it's difficult to really talk about the meat of this thing without revealing a lot of aspects of this, because a lot of it is like, it's, in many ways, Berserk is a maximalist, right? But there's so much of the really good stuff is really understated. Even just looks, things like that, right? In this sumbitch. But yeah, this kid is clearly in the Black Swordsman arc. Guts has some issues with other people, right? he really despises being touched. Can't stand it. It doesn't matter who's touching him either, right? He doesn't really have very much value for human life at all. He is willing to kill innocents. Only really one death hurts him in the whole thing, and that's the little girl and her like old man dad. He's like traveling, and he gets attacked by because of the brand, right? He gets attacked, and these two people get sort of caught in the crossfire, right? And he ends up destroying this child's body that gets possessed, and it does damage him. He cries about it, I believe, which you never see up to that point, right? He never really shows that aspect of himself.
And it's important to say, and we've said this before, that chronologically we're stepping back, right? The Black Swordsman arc occurs after this, so we're getting more context, but also in real time, right? This was done later. So we start off just right in the middle of a battle. And in the first episode, you remember that I said there's a lot of amazing art and great kind of historical arms and armor. This panel is a great example of that, right? Just this massive battle. Obviously, this is sort of paying homage to the historical 100 Years' War, right? This conflict where there are lots of mercenaries running around. Guts himself is a part of one of these bands. So the battle is again rendered in gory detail, and then there's this troop of armored knights that come in, and instead of fighting that with an actual force, Guts rides out himself, right? And again we see the sort of like very dutifully rendered gore as he kind of cuts them through. Again, a great kind of double spread of him going into it. I'm not going to go through and scroll through the entire thing, but I will show kind of choice panels that are particularly relevant or interesting as we go through it.
And not even a lot of they're like prototypical of Miura's style and what to expect of this manga. The big cleave is basically the Guts bread and butter. Like he's what I love about him as a character is that he's clearly unbelievably skilled, right? But he fights in the most brute force way. I love that about him. He's not gonna go, like, he doesn't care about going for the gaps in your armor. He doesn't care about trying to sort of like beat you with footwork and then get outside of your guard. He just cuts through it, and no one expects that. No one expects that he's able to do that. It's considered like superhuman in the universe, which I appreciate, right? Guts is considered like, imagine seeing somebody do that, man. Imagine watching somebody cleave with a sword through plate armor. That doesn't even make like, you're like, what is, that's like magic shit. Like, what is going on with that guy? What is that guy taking? Right? So he is a force, right? This chapter, right? What I appreciate about it, I just realized the sort of like the format of this, like, properly, right? This chapter in particular, I love this because it's sort of the first time that he gets the first time that you see Guts in a position of responsibility to a degree, right? This is a reveal of him after a time has passed. I do also love the aspect that he's fighting these sort of like something that Japanese authors do a lot, and I think it's kind of there's a lot of soul in this. It reminds me a lot of like a like sort of like 1950s like greaser sort of like street gang called, like, oh, we're like street sharks, you know what I mean, like that kind of shit, like snapping at each other, right? The Japs have this thing too with this unit that the Band of the Hawk is fighting against, right? They're called like the like Black Iron Rams Heavy Cavalry, right? Like they have like
a name. There are a ton of these. It's like there are
tons of them across the manga. There are tons of them. I love this. I love this part of it's very typical, especially of Japanese stuff at this time frame because I think this part was being written in the 90s. Most of the Golden Age was written in the 90s, I believe. He was fast burning in the 90s, but it slowed down significantly. I love that he's fighting sort of like this, like they all have their special ram helmets, and right, they're like a gang, right? it reminds me of like, you know, also like Japanese biker gangs, all of that, right? I get the sort of like connection to the culture, right? I love that. I love that he chose to do this. And
Well, and
you know,
honestly, man, like it's again, this is fantasy. Although what's interesting at this point is that we see Guts witness something magical or supernatural for the first time in this segment.
yes, this is the first time that
later.
really happens. You know,
Yes,
yeah.
and you know that whole thing of having your mercenary crew with a cool name and a banner and something you do.
Yeah, it's
that
like
happened.
Mannerbund. It's Mannerbund
Right,
shit.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
It's the desire, right? I cannot tell you how much I devoured this arc when I read it the first time. Right at 17 years old, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Imagine just fucking just, you know, getting after it with your bros, right? That this is sick. And like your main guy is the coolest guy ever, right? And we have to talk about Griffith, right?
Oh yeah,
This-
100%.
right,
So
this-
we're introduced to Griffith because he, the leader of, you know, Guts mercenary company, rides in on horseback to save him. Right. Again, this kind of double panel you see to basically back him up as he's kind of, you know, weighed down with, you know, all of these like armored knights. And again, this is just the introduction. He is a major character. And in fact, he is referenced in the kind of closing of this segment we're reviewing.
To be clear, this is not the introduction of Guts of Griffith in the Golden Age. This is post time skip. You understand that? This is right. Yeah. I was just reading this earlier today because just to like keep it in my mind, right? This is post time skip. So there is the entire. You remember how their first meeting, right?
Yes, Guts is not meeting Griffith. We are as the audience, is what I meant to say.
No, because there's a whole section in which like, okay, there's a battle. Guts beats a guy. Griffith sees him do this. Then Guts leaves with the money. Griffith's boys watch him leave, right? And they, it's Corcus. You know, they're like he's like the designated, like.
Oh, see, and maybe this is just the site I'm looking at. That is later. I might be looking at a mixed up version, so that's entirely
that's
possible,
definitely mixed
I know
up.
the part you're talking about.
That's yeah. You know what I'm talking about, but yeah, no. This is the Golden Age is done chronologically from the time that, like, literally from the time that in which Gambino finds Guts. It's almost immediately. It starts there, brother. Yeah, it starts there.
Well, this is incredibly professional podcasting.
It's okay. It's okay because all of this sort of works. The chapters that we're talking about are still doing everything that is like they're almost like the prototypical aspect of it. But there's aspects at the beginning that must be discussed, right? Like all of Guts' childhood and all of that stuff.
Yeah, honestly, I'm annoyed because I'm looking through the files ahead, and those are right after this. So here's what we'll do. I'll have you on again. We'll go through that because that is much needed backstory, and that's also why you're probably confused what I was talking about.
No. Yeah. I was a little confused at first. Yeah, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Again,
guys, professional podcaster here who can't use files in order. But that said, we will cover that, right?
Yeah.
So this is the Griffith kind of rides in to save him here. We see a scene afterwards where Casca, another character who will become referenced much more as we go into this later.
Pivotal character.
She basically dresses him down. We learn from some of the background characters that the two of them have a rival, or have a rivalry rather. They can't stand each other. They're kind of vying for, their position under Griffith, the charismatic leader here. And then we move to actually a pretty interesting scene. So I'm going over this not because it's, unimportant, but just because, we'll refer back to this a little bit later and get, it'll make sense later, right? When we go through the kind of rest of this, immediate chapter. Is there anything else you want to cover? We can, like I said, refer back to this later, Remus.
Well, no, all of the interactions in this chapter in particular, especially the one that you're showing, which by the way, I love that you're showing this. You're showing the actual panels, because the amount of people that talk about this stuff completely with nothing, or they just talk about like the anime or something. I think the degree to which it is important to see Miura's drawings, it cannot be overstated. that is the soul of this, of what Berserk is. Berserk is, remember, right? This man wrote and drew basically everything. How manga works is a little bit more complicated, right? There are other people in the place doing all like that, all the shading work, all of like the inking, all of that stuff is handled by different people. But the line work, the designs, the what's it called? Movies do it too. The storyboarding, right? Like the blocking, even, right? Figuring out where people are standing, all of that stuff. This guy is a fucking master. Like he has such a beautiful understanding of quote unquote the camera, right? The eye of the viewer, right? Where things are. He master of space, all of that stuff is ridiculous. And he really starts to flex it, in my opinion, in this part of this arc after the time skip, right? Like in this area, this is where he's solidifying designs. This is where he's figuring out how he wants to make things look in the future. This arc is like it's where the cement sets, I love Griffith's design. First of all, the hawk is such a cool idea, right? Him being this blonde, or he's not even blonde. His hair is white, right? It's more than that. He looks like an elf, for Christ's sake, right? He doesn't even look like a person. And all of his boys, like almost like revere him. The way that they talk about not just Griffith but also Guts at this point, right? After when Casca's sort of like dressing him down, you can see that Guts has established himself within the Band of the Hawk, right? He has now become the captain of the Raiders, right? He has a bunch of guys under his command, and he still does reckless things, but his guys don't even care. They think he's awesome, right? They think it's cool that he does 1v1s, right? They're like, that's sick. We'll go after you anyway, right? But Casca has problems with that, right? And the friction is there, and I love that, right? Her feeling that he's sort of replacing her, all of the stuff, like all of the fact that all of these characters are clearly people who are, right? If you're a mercenary in a band of guys, right? You've probably had a pretty interesting or hard life, or both, right? Something has brought you to this place that's not like normal, right? A lot of these guys are outcasts. They don't have anybody to go back to or any place to go back to. So this is their place, right? So that conflict between people who don't know where else to go and feel like their place is being sort of usurped, that provides for interesting character work, right? And thankfully, Mira understands understatement. He understands not making everything necessarily be said. He understands allowing characters to not, like, Guts doesn't necessarily say everything he's feeling, right? Most of the time he's conveying all of the things that this guy thinks through looks, So you have to be able to do that well, and you see a lot of that coming out here. I love this stuff. I love these chapters in particular. It's sort of a coming out for the character, right? You've seen because again, right? Chronologically, we're a little bit far in. At this point, you've seen a lot be overcome from Guts, right? Like he seems sort of like he's maturing more as a person, as a man, right? She gets upset with him, Casca, right? She gets upset with him about like saying like you don't care about your comrades, you don't care about anybody else, right? You just go in. And he's like, no, like that's that's what he takes issue with, right? Is her saying that to him.
Well, and we get an interesting contrast in this next scene, right? Guts and Griffith have their conversation, and then we see the difference in how the two of them are basically celebrating this victory, right? So again, we see this very good, architectural drawing. Yura plays a lot with perspective. We noticed this earlier in the Black Swordsman arc. But again, right, the other mercenary captains are here. Griffith is being knighted, right? He is sort of getting this title. We see the people, his warriors, reacting. The question again is, where's Guts? Guts is just working out, right? He
Yeah, he's
straps
training.
some kind of crude, wooden weights to his sword, and he's outside, just completely uninterested in the kind of status, the desire for glory that we see driving Griffith. So again, these two are foils for each other. The two of them
Yes.
are the thrust of the drama of this piece.
They
And again,
it is their relationship that defines the state of the world, literally everything about what happens. These decisions, these choices, these ambitions, these resentments, everything that takes place between these two characters defines everything that happens. It's beautiful, the subtlety of all of it as well, like especially okay, I know we're trying to not do spoilers, but we have to talk about the way that these two actually come together and the nature of how that defines their relationship, right? There's a lot of people talk about Berserk, and the way that they talk about Griffith and Guts is like, they have this very crude sort of like, it's gay, and it's like, listen, dude, just shut the fuck up, right? Like, get out of here. Like, you can do that if you want, but that's not what's happening here, right? Griffith is the kind of person that has a single desire, right? He has a single goal. He has as he calls it, a dream. He wants something from the world for whatever reason, which you do see and find out why Griffith pursues what he pursues in the way that he pursues it, right? But initially, when they first meet, Griffith has seen Guts in action in combat, right? And this kid is already like, he is clearly like, this is like meeting Guts would be like meeting a very scary street dog, right? He is hard. Like meeting a kid, like, could you imagine meeting a child like him? You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, that's like that. It's scary, and it's also, it's not scary because it's not like necessarily this kid's gonna, you know what I mean? But there's a sense of like, especially if you're your own kids, right? I don't, but everyone who does, right? You look at a child, right? Any child that's like hard and that has hard eyes and that looks at you the way that Guts looks at people when he's a child, right? It's like, what the fuck happened to this kid, right? There's something clearly here. But whatever it is, it fuels this violence, right? And the reason for that is myriad, but to put it simply, it's violence is the only thing that is ever actually violence is the only friend that Guts has, right? His sword is his only friend. It's the only thing he can really trust. It's the only thing that he knows won't betray him. It's the only thing that he knows he can depend on, right? Is the blade. That's why he's so good with it. That's why even here, right, while Griffith is being knighted, he's honing his ability to use it, right? That's his only real instrument in this world, to act upon it, to stop it from acting upon him, right? Which has very much happened to him. So when he meets Griffith, who has seen him fight, sees him, like, again, cut through some dude's armor with a fucking sword, which is insane, right? Griffith sees him fight, and Griffith understands the value of this, of being able to bring violence to bear like that. Sees him as a tool, right? And goes, I could use that. They meet because Griffith's men jump him. He kills a couple of them. The fight starts to go bad. Casca goes over to try to stop him. Guts almost kills Casca. Griffith saves her and shows, one, why he is the guy that he is. He is an expert swordsman. Like, as much as we are going to talk about Griffith's faults, right? Right now, in these panels, you were just contrasting the focuses, right? Griffith is here to get knighted. He wants the accolades because of where they will take him in his mind, right? But he earned them with, like, Griffith isn't just snaking his way through, right? He is actually real. When he fights Guts, he beats him. And that's the proposition. If I beat you in this sword fight, I will own you. You will be mine. It's literally the language that he describes, that he uses, right? You will be mine. And he loses the fight, right? Guts loses the fight. So that relationship, right? Because not only does he lose the fight, then he is introduced into and embraced by this band of warriors, right? And again, as I said at the beginning, it's Mannerbund, right? This is the desire of all young men to a degree, is to be embraced by a group of their peers, right? You want the others to respect you and to value you, right? I think this is human universal, right? And he never experienced this up until this point. The only way that he experienced any form of value was, it was all backhanded. It all came with abuse, right? So finally, he meets these people who treat him well for what he can do, and even after hurting him, embrace him, right? Only then does he learn sort of like to become dedicated to others, right? And now at this point, even in this panel, right, the juxtaposition of them, so true, right? Griffith or Guts, he never stops honing himself. Griffith is now concerned with pageantry, knighthood, the social dynamic. If you can you scroll back up for a sec? Like or I think yeah. Okay, so while he's being knighted, right? While that's happening, the whole time, other nobles who were there before him, right? Guys who were already knights, these guys are all talking shit, right? They're all like, I can't believe this, right? So this is now the domain that Griffith has to concern himself with. These are the sparrings that he has to go through. These are the knife fights that he has to deal with. Whereas Guts remains sort of the earth, right? It's like one goes to the sky, the other one goes to the earth, right? They are truly like a yin and yang situation, the two of them.
Well, and you get that visually, right?
Yes.
The visual contrast between, Guts
Yes.
training, he's sweaty and gross, and then Griffith, right, in his finery. Guts he is wielding his sword. Griffith is kissing one,
yes.
right? Assuming his new role as a knight.
Yes.
And that contrast is very deliberate.
Miura drew. Guts isn't ugly. I wouldn't call him ugly, right? There's a reason that so many Zoomers, want to be this character, right? But it's the reason that so many people in general have wanted to be this character, never mind Zoomers. But no, like, what I mean? He's like a gym icon now. Like guys go to the gym and they get the brand of sacrifice tattooed on them. What I mean? It's funny how that's like become part of the culture, right? Enduring pain. But it's not only in that, right? It's the character. It's not that he's ugly. It's that they're juxtaposed, right? His hair he's dark. His skin even is like he looks more tanned always than Griffith, right? He's rougher. He looks like a person who has slept outside many times, and Griffith doesn't. Griffith looks like a princess from a castle, right? But he is rough. That's the weird part about Griffith, and that's the part that always, like, again, just like Guts' strength is acknowledged in universe to sort of be monstrous. It's like, what the fuck is that? Griffith is also considered like, it's like people are like, it's like he's not even real. You know what I mean? He seems like unreal. He's like a character out of myth. He's like an Arthurian legend or something, right? And to that point, something that I also want to bring up. Sorry, go ahead, because I won't forget.
No, not at all. But that's something we will see referenced a multitude of times, right?
Exactly.
Griffith is pretty, almost like a girl. And,
yes,
not to say that, Guts is deliberately hideous. Like, there are grotesque and hideous people in this. We saw it in the Black Swordsman arc.
Mm-hmm.
But he's rough. He has been effectively scarred by war. right? He's covered in marks, and he
Mhm.
doesn't take care of himself in nearly the same way that Griffith does.
Yeah, doesn't
There's a,
concern himself with that at all. Doesn't care.
exactly
Yeah.
in the same way that he doesn't care about doesn't care about status at all.
He literally doesn't care about anything except getting better at swinging the sword. That's like the whole focus of his life is like, I'm going to do that. And part of that is because he feels that debt, right? He feels the debt to Griffith and the band for what they've given him, which is like a place, a family, a home, people to care about, people that care about me, people to depend on me, closeness with others, right? That desire of his, because it's not that, like, some of the most heartbreaking panels in Berserk are the stuff of when he's a kid, like the one where he falls asleep while holding the fucking sword. It's like, that is so painful. Like, this kid desires closeness so much, right? And he's not getting it from anybody around him because nobody is there for him for that purpose. That he will choose cold and sharp steel, right? Anything, right? It's the only thing that's here for me, right? To go from that to being somebody who has friendships, has close bonds, that is a tremendous change, right? Like, this is like this. It's like I don't know, anybody who has ever taken in an animal, not necessarily a heavily abused one, but you too, right? Those people too, right? The amount of time and effort and care that it takes to open that kind of pain up, right, is really, really difficult. But when you do, it's immensely, immensely gratifying and satisfying to sort of like see this animal learn to trust again, right? Guts is a similar creature. He's like a very abused stray dog, right? And these people gave him a home. These people gave him something. So his way of giving back is, I don't have anything but my ability to use this weapon. So I'm going to become unbelievably proficient with it. I will push myself beyond what's possible. And meanwhile, this is what Griffith is concerned with. Griffith's eyes are always on the horizon. Griffith is always looking to the future. Griffith is holding what he himself has called the egg of the king already, right? We know what this thing is.
We do.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that, we will learn more about Griffith, as is sort of, foreshadowed at the start of, at the end of, this segment we're going through. So next chapter, right? It opens on this shot of Griffith with the bayonet around his neck. Of course, as people who have read the Black Swordsman arc, we understand the significance of that, right? There's some heavy foreshadowing going on. What happens next is that, Griffith and, his company are on a hill overlooking a siege, and they're talking about Zod, this soldier, this sort of mythical man. And, as the action kind of goes on, we see this keep where the door has been busted in, and there are other mercenaries standing around, and they're saying, we've sent 50 men in. None of them have come back out. And again, right, the gore is significant in this. So as we go through,
he hasn't just Guts himself notes this, that when he goes in, man, this is not like, oh, a bunch of guys got killed with weapons in here. This is like, what the fuck? These people got pulped. Like, they're like destroyed. They're not just killed. They're like, what is happening? It's like they got killed by machinery or something. You know what I mean? It's like coming into an industrial accident.
And we see the exact same dynamic, right?
Yeah.
As we've seen earlier, Guts wants to go in, right? Despite the fact that these, 50 men have been killed. And we see, right, one of the survivors stumbling out. And it's graphic.
Completely
right? He's
destroyed.
Been completely hacked. His one of his arms and half of his side is missing. Right? You see I was going to say guts, but that's a stupid pun in this context. You see his intestines, right?
It's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And the last thing he says,
dude, he guts them. He's truly guts from Berserk right there.
he guts across the room berserkedly, right?
So true, so true.
But of course, right, Guts being our hero, he goes in, right? Again, we've seen this established. So yet again, as you said, right, these guys are not killed like the other bodies we see, stabbed with spears or arrows. They are completely and totally mangled, right? And again, we see this dramatic perspective that Muro loves to use.
Beautiful shot, man.
Oh, great. And look, like I'm a sucker for all the medieval architecture, which is great in this. Just another example. Again, kind of the focus on the horror. There is a lot of horror in Berserk. This gets kind of ramped up.
I would say it's undoubtedly a horror manga, at least as a side genre. Like that is he is definitely taking from that. And I mean like old horror, like obviously it's graphic, but he's more working in a like, this feels like Dracula. Like this feels like Frankenstein. You know what I mean? This doesn't feel like yes, it's graphic violence, but it's also like there's a majesty. There's a good use of shadow and darkness. There's a understanding of how to build into a visually terrifying thing, right? That's his style. He's the best at this. Another thing I did want to say earlier, right? This is something that I think is also a huge part of why Berserk is so popular in the West, is because it is invariably Western in many ways. Obviously, it's a manga, but like the entire thing takes place in Pseudo-Europe. All the designs are European designs, right? People love Dark Souls, right? And Dark Souls has a very similar aesthetic language that Berserk does, obviously, right? It's very visually inspired by it, right? Even the enemies, things like that, right? I love that Miura made that choice to and it's so lovingly represented as well. Like you can tell that he enjoys drawing the armor, drawing the buildings, drawing the spears, drawing the formations, the sweeping fields, the green, right? That those aspects of sort of a pre-industrial Europe, right? Almost like a Ghibli type of thing, right? I think that sort of same itch is sort of being scratched a little bit, except this includes like hyperviolence and stuff, and horror, right? Especially with
and obviously there's a lot pulling from Lovecraft, this idea of a cosmic horror that we got into, speaking about the God Hand earlier in the last episode, right? The idea of incomprehensible powers past your understanding that are malicious, right? And want to kill you.
Yes. 40, almost 40K, like, right? The God Hand and sort of the way that this is operating is almost like that. It's there's things beyond the veil and they are malevolent, right?
Oh yeah, this is a world where hell is like very real. Yeah. And of course, right, he rounds the corner and sees Zod. Yes. Again, lovingly rendered, just the absolute horror of this ostensible man.
He's so sick.
Right? You see him just completely jacked. I
love that he's naked too. I love that. Like every aspect of this is so like he is Conan. You know what I mean? He is not like, this is not a thing like the other people that you have been seeing up to this point. Never mind the fact that he's an apostle. Beyond that, right? This is primordial. This is a primordial. Like this dude he's not bothering wearing armor. He's not bothering with any of that. Look at his fingers in that guy's head, right? Like beyond even the apostle aspect, though, yes, the fingers in the head is apostolly, right? It's just the fact that like this is Zod immediately shows like almost like the Cro-Magnon brow thing, right? Like he establishes him as like a almost primeval man immediately. All the hair, the subtle, like everything, his whole body's crosshatched, right? And that gives the impression that he's covered in hair, but it's like very fine. You know what I mean? He feels bestial, everything. It's such an excellent introduction of this character. I love him.
And straight away,
Yeah.
Guts just charges him, right? Just full steam ahead. You know, he throws the bodies of these two of his compatriots at him, of course, which is, you know, just savage. And, you know, the two of them start to have a fight. Again, we see Guts slammed into a pillar, right? Again, a recurring motif in these.
The overwhelming strength immediately established, right?
Well, and
another
again,
thing I was going to mention, okay, something that I think is very interesting. The you know, on the way in, right? You were showing, you know, on the way in, that shot of the hallway of all the mangled bodies. The only person up to this point that we've seen who is able to make this human bodies turn into this kind of thing is Guts, right? His fights, that's what people look like after the fights, right? So it kind of subtly establishes that, like, you are now walking into a place in which the order of battle is now to your level, right? You are, he can do what you can do, right? And he even kind of, his face subtly mirrors Guts's, right? They have very similar facial physiognomy. It's just that Zod's is like monsterfied, right? It's like exaggerated, but they have that same sort of brow. That even their hair is similar, right? Same facial sort of shape and stuff. I think Zod is clearly, like, to me, he's always been a mirror of Guts, right? He's like, what if Guts was a monster? He would be Zod, right?
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, right? We see very quickly that Zod recognizes there's something different about Guts.
Yes.
So
I
anyway,
love
right?
The tactical shade on his penis. You never see his penis.
Yeah, 100%. You know, Zog has just a massive hog.
Yeah, it's like he's hiding it though. He's a grower, not a shower, dude. Don't worry.
Well, and again, you see the kind of characterization by weapons, which is something constantly done in this.
Yes.
Zod basically just has a machete,
it's
right? This
Falx,
like rough,
dude.
giant blade,
So, yeah,
just
even
designed
worse,
for hacking people apart.
It's a hacking weapon. It goes around shields. It's pure offense.
100%, because you're a giant dude. Again, as we see from this, again, we'll ring the bell every time you hear me say perspective.
Yeah.
The forced perspective of this, right? This guy is farther away and yet towering over him. You know, with this pile of corpses
the whole
behind
room.
them.
You know what I mean? He's the whole room. Mir is a master of this.
And we see
that strike well, boy.
Right? Zod recognizes this isn't just a normal guy. And he goes in.
Panel with him, man, is just like, look at the implication of speed, the weight, everything. How unprepared Guts is, even though he's swinging, right? He's like, holy shit.
And you see that
so
in
fast.
the difference in the lines, right?
Yeah.
The line work, where Guts is largely stationary. He's still obviously moving his sword, but compare the line weight on his sword,
the arms and the blade versus like
all of Zod just bearing down on it.
Yes, pure violence. There is only, like, Zod reminds me, any Baki enjoyers out there, you know, big ups to you. He reminds me of Hanma Yujido from Baki. That ogre bestial nature, right? That speed, that overwhelming power of every movement, every action. There's no wasted nothing. He just goes for it. I love the shining eyes too, right? He doesn't even bother with the face in that panel, but he gives you the eyes, right? Such perfect little choices. I cannot, like, I will gush over literally everything in the manga. I love Berserk. It's so well done. I also did want to read this. I did want to read this because this is what it starts. Like, this part of the arc, this is what it starts with, right? And we were just talking about Lovecraftian powers, right? And Zod. In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will. Man takes up the sword in order to shield the small wound in his heart sustained in a far-off time beyond remembrance. Man wields that sword so that he may die smiling in some far-off time beyond perception. Right? I love the understanding of the blade as the will of how sort of one's willingness to do battle, to fight, to potentially die, to throw themselves into danger, right, is where they will find who they are, right? Guts lives by this creed. He lives by this logic, and you find in this fight, so does Mr. Zod.
Yes, and that's what's interesting about this. I'm not going to show this segment of it, not because there's anything wrong with it. It's great, but the fight scene as it progresses, Guts is holding his own, and he's not being hacked to pieces. And Zod noticed this. He says, no man has been able to halt my sword for 50 years. So the two of them get pushed apart. And Zod, who is, despite being this hulking beast, is clearly very intelligent because he says,
he calls
you're betting
him,
this all.
He calls him specifically, and I love this, in Japanese, Subarashi. He calls him splendid, superb. That's how he refers to Guts. I love that. He's like, wow, this guy fucking rules. He hasn't died in 4 slashes. Amazing.
Well, and to that point, right, as they're pushed apart by kind of the tides of the fight, Zod looks at him and says, I know what you're going to do. You're betting this all on one last strike. That's all you've got left. Mm-hmm. And what's in an interesting moment, because this is very prototypically Guts, right? He doesn't. He makes a tactical move. He goes for his sword. He breaks Zod's sword and cuts into his flesh, right? Goes through his forearms. And we see several things. One, Zod is not human at all, because as Guts' sword is through his forearms and into his chest, he pulls it out, right? A kind of a classic movie shot, right? Mm-hmm. And we see this sort of menace build, and this has a lot of parallels to the fight with the Snake Baron, right? We're initially somewhat human-ish, but all of a sudden we realize there's a whole lot more to Zod than we would have initially thought.
And I love this because this is the first time that Guts sees this, and the first time that Guts is confronted with the truth of his world.
Yes, because before this and all the other battles, which have been, very well done, it's all been human. It's guys with swords, guys with spears, cannons, at least some. Yep. And all of a sudden, we see this reveal of something that is not human at all.
Yes. And up until this point, right, this guy, we were just talking about it, this guy has been able to take solace, right, in the fact his world has been ended before. You understand? This is a child who has gone through horrible, horrible experiences. And he fought for his humanity back with the blade. And now he's being confronted with a thing that it seems that the blade simply does not have an answer for. And this is world shattering, right? How do you deal with this? Okay, there's a monster in front of me, right? What? Oh, and by the way, he's like kind of pissed off because I just got him really bad. He's a little mad about it.
And again, Mura playing with perspective, right? Look at how tiny Guts' massive sword is in his hand. Compare that to even a few panels ago, where we see him in more human form, where it's filling up his palm. All of a sudden, it's like you grabbing a pencil. Again, just superb.
It's nothing now. He's literally power scaling him visually. You know what I mean? It's like you have just been outclassed. You have been revealed to, in fact, have been a lightweight after all, and you are in the heavyweight section now. Here is what the heavyweights look like.
Well, and one other thing, this is the opening of the next chapter that Mura is so good at.
Man. Holy shit! Is fur and
swapping. Right, is swapping the color. Right, this is white lines on black background. Again, very stylistic. Something we will see often used to highlight certain things. But we get, again, the great perspective of Zod, bearing down on our hero. We see him actually scared, right?
Yeah, he's beginning shaking.
Which is very atypical from Guts. We know that he almost has no fear. And Zod is saying, dude, this is awesome. Yeah, I haven't been angry in forever. He's jazzed.
He is loving it. He is having the best time. He's like, dude, don't disappoint me. I love that.
I love that. He's like, it has been so long since I've been able to have fun. If you
And
just lose now, it's gonna suck, dude. Give me some.
and so Zod continues the attack, right? He just batters Guts.
No
through
mercy
this-
though. No mercy
Oh,
whatsoever.
none at all.
Love that. No mercy. He's like, no. It's a fight. We're fighting, right? It's
And-
to fight you is to honor you.
And we see Guts sort of very reasonably sort of questioning his sanity, right? He's
Yeah.
like, this can't be real. But nonetheless, right, Zod is bearing down on him, and we see the momentum has changed. Like Guts is swinging at him, right? But it bounces off. It just hits his horn. And he again gets backhanded through another one of these columns. And as Zod bears down on him, right, saying, I won't show you mercy. Is this all you've got? Like, I guess it's fine for a human. Backward
Look how
order. But,
disappointed he looks, dude.
yeah.
Look
And
how
he
dis-
lifts him up and
Yeah.
is going to tear him limb from limb. But
All right,
yet
time to
again,
rip you in half again, I guess. Yeah, time to turn you into meat like all those other guys.
Griffith shows up, right? The Band of the Hawk is there. They begin, shooting their arrows at him. We see again the very like feminine, we might say, but kind of like
he's pretty. He's pretty.
beautiful Griffith. Obviously, again, contrasted to Guts, who's been bashed through like
Griffith
a
is
number of
literally prettier than Casca.
yes,
Like noticeably. And it's not because
I mean,
Casca's ugly. It's because Griffith mirror draws him as like the prettiest person in the room at all times, basically. He's like an elf. It's ethereal. And I do love that Griffith doesn't panic. Though you can see for the first time basically ever this guy losing his cool to a degree. Right? He's like, oh shit, he's sweating. You know what I mean? He's like, oh fuck. And then they fire at him, it does nothing, and he's like, okay. And I love this moment. He just like spurgs out super hard. It's like, how dare you fuck with my 1v1? I was having a great time, and all of you came here and you ruined it. These, dude, Zod is just so Kino, dude. He's so based. Right?
Well, like and we see him just laying waste to the other mercenaries.
He just starts killing everyone, dude. No mercy, mashing them up. Like it's like watching a kid destroy a sandcastle, right? He's just wrecking them all. It's like they're all wearing like nothing. Like they're in cloth. He's stamping
and this
on
again, another just
fantastic
great panel. Yeah. So we obviously Guts is throughout the whole thing telling them to run away, but Griffith says no, I'm going in. So he goes in, sort of picks him up off the ground, and then Zod is bearing down on Guts and Griffith together.
This is what I want to stress about this part of the story. This is what makes the Golden Age so good. You in the Black Swordsman arc, Griffith is femto. You know he's femto, right? So you're expecting Griffith to be just this manipulative fuck the entire time. But bro, he's not. He is perfectly capable of being manipulative. He is, to some degree, if you want to use like libtarded language, right? Like he's some sort of like a psychopath or like a narcissist or something. I don't know necessarily. He might be a narcissist, but because like in psychopathy can't feel or whatever. I don't know, right? Whatever. But he clearly cares about people, right? But does he care about them more as objects for his use or not? Honestly, bro, this doesn't seem like, wow, need to use that guy as my tool so hard. No, I feel like a person who doesn't care about another person beyond tool will not risk their life for them like this, like in this circumstance. It's one thing to be in a battle. It's another thing to have a fucking monster from myths bearing down upon you, right? That's a different level of I'm willing to go in there, right? So Griffith shows himself to actually have been a real comrade to these people. He cares about. There's a reason that that everyone follows Griffith the way that they do. It's because he was actually that guy. He has his ambitions, but he will also do this. And I think that contrast in Griffith's character is part of what makes him so interesting.
Well, and again, we get the great visual like weapon contrast, which is something throughout this entire series. You have the giant, Guts, sword, again, not compared to Zod, but still huge. And then, the very elegant kind of, cavalry saber.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Beautiful. And he uses it so effectively.
And that line, your heart's still beating, where are you going? Right? Just absolutely.
Where are
great.
you going? Your heart's still beating. Absolutely. That is a great way to chill the bones, man. Where are you going? Your heart's still beating, dog. What are you talking about?
You're not dead yet.
Yeah, like
So again,
I don't think you've understood what's happening to you. Love this. Love this. This is unbelievably good work, this panel.
Right? Because you see the two of them, these kind of like
so,
simple mortals.
This is what I'm talking about when I say like that. This is where he really starts like flexing his muscles. You know what I'm saying? Like Miura shows in this arc and in this series of chapters, right? How good he really is. And then from then on, it's literally just gets better and better and better and better until he died.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So the fight is still going on. We see both the incredible size and power of this man or this apostle, right?
His man,
bears down on them. Yeah. Poor choice of words. But we see, Guts and Griffith, splitting up, trying to take this guy down. They are wounding him, right? He is taking hits from, now Griffith and Gus together.
Yeah.
To such a point.
Yes.
That they take his arm off.
Yeah, that Griffith actually wounds him, cuts his arm off, right? So both of them have shown to be actually capable of wounding this creature.
Yeah, and again, the fight continues. I'm going to move through this. We see, Griffith is also getting battered by Zod.
Yeah. He is for the first time ever put in a position of actual danger for real.
When he's knocked over.
Yeah. And then
the Beylit comes out. And Zod, looking over, all of a sudden realizes what is going on here.
Can we just talk about the fact that Zod picks up his severed arm and begins to beat Guts with it?
Yeah, just sticks it back on.
He's so Kino, man. Holy shit. Fucking love Zod, man.
He's just villain monologuing while reattaching his arm.
He's just having the time of his life. He's just talking. And he's so like, I love also one of the sort of subversive aspects of it is how eloquent he is. Like he's speaking in like an old and proper, almost like regal way, right? I love that aspect of him. He's this big brute that will beat the fuck out of you, but he's also like hyper eloquent and very, very dignified when he speaks, and then he sees it.
And again, right? We see that he is, despite being this kind of like hulking figure, earlier in the fight when he not correctly, but he makes a very good guess at what Guts' next move is. But of course, he realizes what this is: the egg of the king, not just a Beylit, but a very special one. Yes. He mentions the God Hand, rather. The Crimson Beylit is something that Felix and I went through in the first one.
With the Crimson Beylit. Yeah. And then he starts laughing.
Yep. And he's just, at this point, completely done. Right? Yeah. He physically reaches up, breaks a hole in the roof, and he tells Guts, like, we're done for now. Our battle's on hold. I wonder if I'll ever meet you again.
Next time I see you, it's on site.
Yeah. But as he goes out, he warns Guts. He says, look, if you can be said to be a true friend of this man, when his ambition collapses, then take heed. Right? Warning us about the capacity for Griffith to betray him.
Death will pay you a visit. A death you can
And again, man,
escape. What a
awesome panel.
Yes, absolutely incredible.
And again, for the closing to this chapter, the exit, Zod sprouts wings and flies away.
And
exactly.
Stage right. He just fucking bounces. He's like, later. I love it. The panels were so funny too. He's just like, all right. He just fucking leaves.
Right. While foreshadowing,
he's like, yeah, you're
going
totally
to betray you.
Watch out. Your boy. You better watch out for your boy. Also, I'm coming back.
Yeah. So yeah, this is such a great section. Golden Age is really when this series comes into its own.
So true.
in Black Swordsman's very good, but it is a prototype of something great. It's worth going back to, but if that's all there was of Berserk, people might remember it for the art. People might remember it for a few other things, but this is what makes
I would
the
actually go
series great.
farther. I would go farther. I would say that the Black Swordsman arc is, especially at this point, like generic. The only purpose of reading it is to give yourself the context required for this arc and the rest of the story. It's not that it's bad, because it's not. It's completely serviceable, and especially for its time, it was very good, especially art wise, right? But at this point, right, somebody reading it, I don't think there will be some things that might surprise you a little bit, like for if you hadn't read it, right, and never had any exposure to Berserk. And it's not, again, it's not bad, but this arc is what elevates Berserk to something else beyond what it was before, because this puts one, from a visual standpoint, as I've said many times throughout this, right, it just keeps getting better from here. And Berserk is one of the best looking manga ever, right? And for many, many, many years, it just straight up was basically the best looking manga, right? Nowadays, there are a lot of amazing, amazing, amazing artists out there who do incredible work. It's not necessarily that they look better than Berserk. It's not a competition per se, but it's like hyper high quality art is not something that is like impossible to find, right? Outside of this, right? In the same way that it sort of was for its time, and it has inspired so much stuff over the years. With its, the way that it handled its setting, its character designs and costume designs, armor designs, weapon designs, even buildings, just monsters, everything, right? People have been sort of whether the outright copying or being so clearly inspired by it for so long. Like I don't think I think there's a good reason that, like, for example, like Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII has a giant fucking sword. I think there's a good, what I mean? There's a lot of characters out there that they are what they are because of the influence of this. And Black Swordsman, yeah, I think it establishes like the designs and a lot of those things, but it doesn't have that same soul and heart that comes in everything basically after this, up to Miura's death. And just to be clear, also, I have not read a single chapter of Berserk since Miura died, because I don't. It's not. Even if you're working from his notes and you're his very good friend, and he told you the story and all of that stuff. That's cool. What you're drawing is not what he necessarily would have drawn. It's not ever going to look the way it would have came out of his mind. To me, it's like a fan finishing the thing, even though they're also a big mangaka. It just doesn't. It doesn't hit the same. It feels wrong to read. For me personally, it doesn't. It feels like it just doesn't feel. It almost feels like filler. Except I know that it's supposed to be. It's like, or like how the Game of Thrones show, not in the same like it's shit now way, but like you understand that after a certain point in the Game of Thrones show, they don't have the books to really take from, so they're working from like a skeleton, right? It's the same kind of feeling. So I haven't seen past that. I haven't looked past that, but like up to the point, literally, Miura was drawing some of the best stuff he's ever drawn just before he died. So yeah, the series never gets worse looking. It starts here. It starts here. This is where it really pops off. And even in this chapter, right, this odd chapter, like some of these odd panels, as you saw, are just incredible, right? And now narratively, right, this moment is really important for many, many reasons, right? One, it establishes the whole, like, Behelit, Egg of the King, holy shit, like they knew even beforehand, right? Like this was like it's almost like this kid was destined to do this, right? Like what is going on exactly in this story? Like what is Griffith, right? you know, was he chosen for this, right? Like how does this work? Um, um, but yeah, I love that fight. I love that fight. Really, really important for the character also to encounter like a wall that he can't surmount, right? To feel the true nature of the world, the fact that there are supernatural problems, and like how are you going to solve that, bro? Like what's your answer going to be to that? Um, and to know, because we read the Black Swordsman arc, right? To know that his answer was, I'm just going to get a bigger sword and kill them harder, is like what a great solution to that problem.
Yeah, well, and honestly, man, like this, we might have different feelings about the continuation after his death, because I agree with you on the front of the art, but as far as finishing the story, I am glad for it to be eventually finished one day, and I have at least some level of confidence in the guy who, funny enough, was the basis for the character of Griffith, right?
Yeah.
Heading it up. We'll see. There's not really enough of it yet to say confidently one way or the other, at least from
Yeah,
my
no, it's not
perspective.
even
But
it's not even any real disrespect to him or anything like that. It just feels like like it's just like, even looking at the characters, everything feels wrong. Like while I'm look, it feels like uncanny valley.
yeah,
And
where it's like
yeah,
it's almost but not perfectly right.
exactly. And I agree with you there about the story, because I do want to know what Mira's intention was, and where he intended for the story to go, and what was going to happen. I am glad that that sort of, even though he sadly did not get to finish it, it will be finished, you know? And that work will get finished, right? Like, it's almost like if the Sistine Chapel had never been finished, right? Type thing. It's like you would hope that somebody, a friend, would want to finish it for the person who had been doing, for Michelangelo, right? That kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I'm with you on that, but it's like I just haven't done it. So there's almost a part of me that like almost wants it to be done, and then I'll go and just do it, right? And just read all of it,
Yeah.
right? Because
Dude, it might be another 30 years at this pace.
seriously, man, he was on that boat for so goddamn long, bro. Holy shit. I was concurrent before the boat, so
Jeez, man. Yeah, I caught up on the boat, which again doesn't really narrow it down at all, right? That's like a decade and a half.
If you were on the boat, you were on the boat, and you were a comrade of mine, okay? Because it doesn't matter when you got on the boat, you were there. And that boat situation was fucking crazy, dude. That is insane.
Well, dude, we'll have to have you back on, because this was a ton of fun. There's so much more to cover. We'll definitely do this again. Is there anywhere people can find you, man, or anything you want to promote?
I got banned. I've been banned from Twitter so many fucking times. I'm probably coming back, but you know what I mean? Like, I also don't like care about like that. You know what I mean? I don't have anything to feel or anything like that. You know what I mean? So it's no big deal.
Just doing it for the love of the game.
Absolutely. For me, it's about the things, right? I think the things have great and powerful significance, right? I think, Berserk is like primordial. It's like it's talking to something inside so many of us. And the symbol, and the symbol of guts as the sufferer, right? Is a powerful one in our time. And we are a time that is, it's hungry, it's starving for meaning and myth and symbol, right? Ones that have real power. Because so much feels, especially now, right, with the whole like fucking AI slop bullshit, right? Everything, so much feels like ephemeral, like smoke, right? So when you find something that feels like it's rooted, deeply rooted, it's worth holding on to, I think, and it's worth celebrating, right? And I think Berserk is one of those things. That's why it has the appeal that it has. That's why Guts has the appeal that he has. That's why the story, and especially this part of the story, has the appeal that it has. We all want comrades. You know, we all want brothers in arms who would fight with us, who would die for us, who we would die for. We all wish to have a goal in mind. Many people, and that's something that this arc touches on, many people wish to be led. And I don't necessarily think that that is a like a vice. I don't think that's a sin to wish to be led. Life is difficult and frightening, and it's okay to look to others for some guidance, right? But you know, some people do not wish to be led. They have an ambition, they have a desire, and they wish to get there, right? So some people are willing to help others with their ambition, and that's cool and that's great, right? But what we want and what we desire, and having people willing to help us make it happen, because we, as Guts learns through all of this, you know, like, you cannot do it alone, right? You cannot do it alone. As much as you would like to, you can't. Even the Black Swordsman arc, right? Like, the Black Swordsman arc is like about that, almost like him like trying to do everything by himself, and it almost going catastrophically almost every time. Like, he barely survives all of that, right? Super injured. This arc shows you what he's missing, what he had and what he's missing, and it's something that many of us desire. And you know, towards the end, no spoiler, right? You understand why Guts has the mentality that he has in the Black Swordsman arc, why his mind is the way that it is. Because when something like this, when that kind of safeguard for your soul is taken from you in the way that it is, then I think you are well within your rights to have that kind of response, the kind of response that he takes.
Well, dude, this has been a ton of fun, man. Like I said,
yeah,
we're planning another one. We're going to keep doing these. There won't be another 6-week gap. What I'm probably going to do, and you guys know this, the listeners, I'll probably have a rotating cast of characters. I've got a couple people interested in covering different segments. Obviously, Remus will return. Actually, I'm undecided yet if it's going to be one big one or two smaller ones. But point is, you can stop chimping out. Berserk is back. You're welcome. Again, man, this was a ton of fun, dude. Thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me on,
right,
man. Thanks.
Everyone at home, keep your head up. Life can't last forever. Good night.